Hearing, we need a roll call.
Mr. Amrhein?
Yes, here. Sorry.
Mr. DeLeone? Mr. Ferrara?
Here.
Mr. Kuhar? Mr. Rosenberg?
Here.
Ms. Rosenberg, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I
Mi-
respond both.
Ms.
Both of them together.
Ms. Shaffer?
Here.
Mr. Sidoti?
Here. So we
Mr.
have
Turner?
Another roll call.
Ms. Wallach?
Here.
All right. We're going to do the first public hearing, then we have to do a roll call for the second. Richard?
This is the first of two planned public hearings the city is holding to provide information on the Community Development Block Grant, also known as CDBG, and to solicit comments from the public regarding possible activities the city should consider funding in its 2019 CDBG program year. The primary objective of the CDBG program is to fund activities and projects that benefit low to moderate income persons residing within the city. Eligible activities can include housing initiatives, supportive service programs, and the completion of needed upgrades and repairs to public improvements in geographically designated parts of the city. The city has not received official notice yet from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development on its 2019 CDBG grant allocation. At this point, we are anticipating level funding at $277,500.
Are there any questions from the audience? Seeing none, the first public hearing is closed. I'm going to open the second public hearing. Would the clerk please read the roll?
Mr. DeLeone?
Here.
Mr. Ferrara?
Here.
Mr. Kuhar?
Here.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Here.
Ms. Shaffer?
Here.
Mr. Sidoti?
Here.
Mr. Turner?
Here.
Ms. Wallach?
Here.
Go ahead.
This is the first of two planned public hearings the city is holding to provide information on the Community Housing Impact and Preservation Program, also known as CHIP, which is funded through the State of Ohio Department of Services Agency. This public hearing is to solicit any comments from the public regarding the city's intent to submit its application, a competitive application for 2019 grant application funding. The main objective of the CHIP program is to fund activities and projects that are housing related and benefit low to moderate income persons. The city has used this historically to fund its owner-occupied housing rehabilitation program, and its intent with this grant application is to submit for the same type of programming.
Is there any questions from the audience on this? Seeing none, the second public hearing
Thank you.
is adjourned.
Pretty quick.
Okay.
All right, we're into the regular council meeting. I welcome everybody here tonight. Would the clerk read the roll for the regular council meeting?
Mr. Ferrara?
Here.
Mr. Kuhar?
Here.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Here.
Ms. Shaffer?
Here.
Mr. Sidoti?
Here.
Mr. Turner?
Here.
Ms. Wallach?
Here.
Mr. Amrhein?
Here.
Mr. DeLeone?
Here.
Mr. Turner has opening remarks. Mr. Turner?
We are honored tonight to have Mr. Chase Williams with us from the Boy Scouts. I would like for him to lead us in the pledge, and I don't have any other comments other than that.
Up front. Front and center.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done, sir.
Nice job.
Need approval of the minutes from January 16th and then the second one for the work session on the 16th.
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same
Abstain.
one abstention. Okay. Under public communication, anybody sign in? Tara?
One,
I'm
Mr.
sorry, Don.
Mr. Austin Bashore.
Just a minute, I got something to read. While the law does not require council to provide time for public communication, we have historically invited the public to make comment, and we appreciate their input. This is the time when residents and others can comment on matters that concern them. However, we will not engage in any debate, and as president and council, I reserve the right to end any public communication that is disruptive, embarrassing, harassing, or otherwise objectionable. We ask that you come to the mic, the podium, give your name, address clearly, and you'll have 3 minutes for your comments, sir.
Hello, City Council members. My name is Austin Bayshore. I live 1067 South Lincoln Street here in Kent. I'm a student at Kent State University, as well as a leader of the campus Green Party chapter, member of the Ohio Greens, Green Party US, and the Green Party of South Korea. I come before you today to talk about the disastrous policy of allowing brine on our roads here in Kent to de-ice. Also to urge you to help oppose Senate Bill 165 and to push Kent to stop using Aqua Salinas brine. This Senate bill, which allows contaminants from fracking disasters to be put on our roads, and which will leak in our waterways. This allows poisonous chemicals into our waterways because brine has radium in it. There's no safe version of radium that we can drink, despite what section of the Ohio Senate bill suggests. I urge all of our council members to help oppose this and make Portage County a center of green renewable energies. We also must work to close down all non-renewable energy facilities, including nuclear power in the state. To allow toxins and activities that include de-icing our roads is a big threat to our local ecological communities. The chloride component and the chloride-based de-icers in the rock does not easily precipitate into the soil and will actually mimic drought conditions because of the high saline content in the soil around the roads. With even this, brine from oil companies and natural gas companies is exponentially greater threat. Brine has a high salt concentration, which is up to 10 times that of salt water. Chloride levels in and around toxic spill areas, they show drought symptoms. Sodium is a natural dispersant and can cause soils to swell and disperse. And not only that, but the salt levels are above threshold limits. The brines in the soil which help to create the soil structure, and the brine impairs abilities of plants to soak up nutrients. High salt concentrations are not healthy. If they're not healthy for the plants, they're not healthy for us. Uranium and other types of components in the brine should not be in our drinking waters. And I'm not some crazy conspiracy theorist about this. Cleveland 19 even did a report on this, saying Northeastern Ohio is using radium from the fracking industries to melt to de-ice our roadways. To put it frankly, if we care about our future, we should, in the health of Portage County, in the health of our children's future, we should oppose this highly.
2.5 minutes.
I urge you all to reject this asinine bill and to help prevent this in Portage County, as it clearly values corporate profit over that of our lives. And we should put people, planet, and peace over profit and defeat this disastrous policy that should have never been introduced in the first place. Thank you.
Okay.
Could you
Thank
just give me
you.
the name of the bill again, please?
Ohio Senate Bill 165,
Okay, thanks.
I believe. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Is there any more audience?
None.
All right, written communications?
The Sustainability Commission meeting agenda for February 4th, 2019, and the minutes of January 7th, 2019 were received on January 31st, 2019. Standing Rock Cemetery meeting minutes of January 10th, 2019 were received on January 24th, 2019. Liquor license transfer request from Lamont Enterprises to River Merchant located on 911 North Manaway Street and Patio received on January 28th, 2019. Chief Lee had no objections.
Move to return.
Need a second?
Second.
Return with no comment?
Yeah.
All right, that's the proper motion. And it was second. Is there any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, thank you.
Civil Service meeting agenda of January 28, 2019 was received on January 24th, 2019. Portage County Solid Waste Management District Policy Committee meeting minutes of October 3rd, 2018 were received on February 6, 2019. Planning Commission agenda for February 19th, 2019 was received on February 12th, 2019. And after the agenda was sent out, we received a packet from Park and Recreation for their February 21st meeting, and they noted that they're going to have a new start time of 5 p.m., and we received that on February 28th, or February 18th, 2019.
Okay, thank you. City manager report, Mr. Amrhein.
Yes, I'd like to move items 1 through 14 on the city manager's report.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ferrara. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Is it for Mr. Rowland?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, standing committee legislation, committee of the whole. There are no minutes. There's no action recommended. Would the clerk read draft number 2019-14 in title only?
Yes. An ordinance amending the general compensation plan for all unclassified and various classified employees of the City of Kent, except the city manager, from January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2020, as adopted by ordinance number 2017-155, and as amended by ordinance number 2018-141, so as to add the position of payroll administrator and remove the secretary of the health department and declaring an emergency. This was
Suspension.
unauthorized.
Second.
Second by Mr. DeLeone. Please call the roll on suspension.
Mr. Kuhar,
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Ms. Shaffer,
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti,
Yes.
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Wallach,
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein,
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone,
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara.
Yes. Move adoption.
Second.
Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Ms. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Ms. Shaffer,
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti,
Yes.
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Wallach,
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein,
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone,
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar.
Yes.
Draft number 2019-14 passes.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2019-15 in title only?
An ordinance amending ordinance number 2018-140, the position allocation ordinance, so as to revise the position title of senior account clerk to payroll administrator with updates to the position and declaring an emergency.
Suspension.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kuhar. Please call the roll for suspension.
Ms. Shaffer,
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti,
Yes.
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Wallach,
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein,
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone,
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar, Ms. Rosenberg.
Yes.
Move adoption.
Second.
Second by Mr. DeLeone. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Sidoti,
Yes.
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Wallach,
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein,
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone,
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar,
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Ms. Shaffer.
Yes.
Draft number 2019-15 passes.
Okay, that's all for the committee of the whole. Community Development, Mr. Kuhar.
Separate minutes from action, please.
I move to accept the committee meetings of January 9th.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Abstain.
One abstention.
Move to approve the meetings of February, committee meetings of February 6th, 2019.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ferrer. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And move
Abstain.
to,
One abstention.
abstention, move to accept the one action as recommended.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ferrer. Any discussion on the action? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2019-19 in title only?
An ordinance accepting for dedication purposes to the city of Kent, Ohio, the street right-of-way at 1106 through 1116 West Main Street, that's Claven, Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, and declaring an emergency.
Suspension.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kuhar. Good. I need a motion for adoption. Oh, roll call, I'm
Roll
sorry.
call.
Okay. Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Wallach,
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein,
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone,
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar,
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti.
Yes.
Move adoption.
Second.
Second by Mr. DeLeone. Is there any question, discussion on adopting this ordinance? Please call the roll for adoption.
Ms. Wallach,
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein,
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone,
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar,
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti,
Yes.
Mr. Turner.
Yes.
Draft number 2019-19 passes.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2019-20 in title only?
An ordinance amending resolution number 2019-12 to grant an access easement to West River Place and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Second by Mr. DeLeone. Please call the roll for suspension.
Mr. Amrhein,
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone,
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar,
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti,
Yes.
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Wallach.
Yes.
Okay, suspension passes.
Move adoption.
Second.
Second by Roger. Would the clerk read roll call?
Mr. DeLeone,
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar,
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti,
Yes.
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Wallach,
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein.
Yes.
Draft 2019-20 passes.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2019-21 in title only?
An ordinance confirming the City of Kent Mayor's appointment of Tom Wilkie to the Franklin Kent JED and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Second by Roger. Would the clerk read the roll for suspension?
Mr. Ferrara,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar,
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti,
Yes.
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Wallach,
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein,
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone,
Yes.
Move adoption.
Second.
Second by John. Would the clerk read the roll? Is there any discussion on adoption? Seeing none, read the roll for adoption.
Mr. Kuhar,
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti,
Yes.
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Wallach,
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein,
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone,
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara,
Yes.
Draft number 2019-21 passes.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2019-22 in title only?
An ordinance confirming the City of Kent Mayor's appointment of Tom Wilkie to the Brimfield Kent JED and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Second by John Kuhar. Would the clerk read the roll for suspension?
Ms. Rosenberg,
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti,
Yes.
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Wallach,
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein,
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone,
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar.
Yes.
Suspend.
Move adoption.
Second.
Second by Roger. Would the clerk read the roll for adoption?
Ms. Schaefer,
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti,
Yes.
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Wallach,
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein,
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone,
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar,
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg.
Yes. Draft number 2019-22 passes.
Okay, thank you. That's it for Community Development, Finance Committee. Mr. DeLeone.
Yeah, I'd like to move the committee meetings of January 9th,
Second.
2019, and February 6th, 2019.
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Abstain.
How about that?
I'd like to move the action recommended.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ferrer. Any discussion on the action? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, would the clerk read draft number 2019-16 in title only?
An ordinance amending ordinance number 2018-142, the current appropriation ordinance, to adjust appropriations, transfers, and advances from the various funds of the City of Kent to individual accounts for the current expenses of the city for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2019, and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Please call the roll on suspension.
Mr. Sidoti,
Yes.
Mr. Turner,
Yes.
Ms. Wallach,
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein,
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone,
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara,
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar, Ms. Rosenberg.
Yes.
And Ms. Shaffer.
Yes.
Move adoption.
Second by Mr. DeLeone. Will the clerk, is there any discussion on adopting this? Will the clerk read the roll for adoption?
Mr. Turner.
Yes.
Ms. Wallach.
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein.
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone.
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara.
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar.
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg.
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer.
Yes.
And Mr. Sidoti.
Yes.
Draft number 2019-16 passes.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2019-17 in title only?
An ordinance authorizing Kent Parks and Recreation to submit an application for 2019 Recreational Trails Program, RTP grant, and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Second by Mr. DeLeone. Read the roll for suspension.
Ms. Wallach.
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein.
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone.
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara.
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar.
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg.
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer.
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti.
Yes.
And Mr. Turner.
Yes.
Move adoption.
Second.
Second by Mr. DeLeone. Any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Amrhein.
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone.
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara.
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar.
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg.
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer.
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti.
Yes.
Mr. Turner.
Yes.
Ms. Wallach.
Yes. Draft number 2019-17 passes.
Okay, thank you. Would the clerk read draft number 2019-18 in title only?
An ordinance authorizing the city manager or his designee to take all actions necessary to accept Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council, or NOPEC, 2019 Energized Community Grant Funds, and declaring an emergency.
Move suspension.
Second.
Second by Mr. DeLeone. Please call the roll for suspension.
Mr. DeLeone.
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara.
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar.
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg.
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer.
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti.
Yes.
Mr. Turner.
Yes.
Ms. Wallach.
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein.
Yes.
Move adoption.
Second.
Second by Mike. Is there any discussion on adopting this ordinance? Seeing none, please call the roll for adoption.
Mr. Ferrara.
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar.
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg.
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer.
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti.
Yes.
Mr. Turner.
Yes.
Ms. Wallach.
Yes.
Mr. Amrhein.
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone.
Yes.
Draft 2019-18 passes.
Okay, thank you. That's it for Finance Committee. Health and Public Safety, Mr. Amrhein.
Yes. I'd like to move the committee meeting minutes of January 9th.
Second.
Second by Mike. Any discussion on this minutes? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same
Abstain.
sign. One abstention. That's it for Health and Safety. Land Use, Mr. Ferrer.
Nothing.
Nothing. No actions. Streets and Sidewalks, Mr. Sidoti.
I'd like to move the committee meeting minutes of January 9th and February 6th.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Abstain.
One abstention. Is there any special committee reports needed? Unfinished business, anything? Nothing? Under new business, item needing council action or referral. Tracy?
I have a bunch of things today. First of all, I wanted to ask, we had been talking about city Wi-Fi. Has that gone anywhere?
City Wi-Fi?
We had been
In what
looking into it.
context? Like in all neighborhoods, downtown, and city buildings, and where? Do you have
I
a?
think, because we had looked at Fairline, I believe, has city
Ah,
Wi-Fi for the whole
so-
community.
That is actually providing service into people's homes. So we did visits to Hudson, we did visits to Fair Lawn. Just to do the initial study work is about $250,000. And so we did not proceed because we just don't have that funding at this time.
Okay.
So-
And then,
But if I could, can I even jump in? With all the 5G that's coming on, remember you've passed ordinances that allow those sort of mini dishes all over town. I think a lot of that's going to take care of that high-speed need without the city's investment.
Okay. And then I wanted to know, we had passed an ordinance last year outlawing discrimination against LGBTQ community. I wanted to know, do we have any complaints or anything like that?
I don't think there have been any. So that's a no.
Sorry, no. Okay, then, it doesn't seem like we're going to have too many snow events these days. I mean, it looks like every year it's just been one at most. So the plowing of the 43 has been going well, and I know that people are very happy about it. So I would like to put in committee discussion of now plowing East Main also, because there's a lot of foot traffic there because of the students. And East Main, it only has to be done one side, because the other side, most of it is taken care of by
Already
the city.
doing that.
I thought they were too.
Yeah.
East Main,
Yeah.
Yeah, already do that.
all the way down to.
I don't know, John, do you know how far, is it the full length?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't done for the snow event.
It actually was, I think, but that was such a messy event that it got covered back up. And then it froze. And then there's nothing John's guy can do once it's frozen.
Okay, so the actually is done, okay.
Yeah.
That's standard procedure. I
All
think.
right, so that's good. And then the last thing I wanted to know, I know with my experience with the Cantwell Sherman House, that empty houses and empty buildings cost money. And that house next to the police station, we okayed the demolition of that back in August of 2018. And the police station is now empty. So my question is, when are those going to get demolished? Because I know we're paying on those right now. We're still paying insurance and things like that on those buildings.
Yeah, no, there
So
is.
when
I
is
mean,
that gonna
Melanie can
happen?
speak to that better. Part of what she's trying to do, and I'm going to jump the gun, is the more information we have on the new city hall, that's going to affect what they do underneath, basically how they prepare the soil, and where, and what's the word I'm looking for? The grading and so forth. So I think some of that, she's kind of like playing that game of
Understand
waiting,
that,
but
But the house next to the police station, none of that's,
a house, I'm
The fire
sorry.
station.
I mean, fire station.
Fire
yeah, right.
station, she
Fire
means.
station house,
Right.
Manaway.
Yeah, part of the approval for that was that
Oh, I'm sorry.
the residents didn't have to be out until December 31st. So we allowed them to move out December 31st. They still had an excessive amount in there. We gave them a 30-day notice to remove everything, and now we have boarded the house. And we are beginning that process to do that. There is stuff still left in the house, and there is quite a bit of stuff, specifically vehicles, left in the garage. So we have to go through those processes in order to deem those scrap and get rid of those. But we are moving forward.
And that's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Kuhar?
Going along with something Tracy brought up, this program was fairly successful with the plow or the brush. I'm just wondering if we could make a motion to put it in the committee to look at Franklin Avenue from Summit Street to Cherry Street. Because there's a lot of foot traffic there between the school and the post office.
Are you making a motion?
Yes,
Is there a second? Mr.
I'll second it. Put it in committee.
All right. Further discussion?
all was said.
Further discussion, Tracy?
No, but I'm actually thinking about maybe continuing up on North Manaway for the kids there, but,
They do North
They
Manaway.
do that.
oh, that's done already?
All the state routes.
All the sidewalks to school.
Oh, I guess, I don't know where I've been, man.
It's true. Is there any more discussion? Robin, you have discussion on that motion?
Not on that, no.
Oh, all right, all in favor?
Oh,
Heidi,
no.
where are you?
I am,
Is it a motion on this?
nope.
Oh, all right. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? All right, Mr. Turner?
Yeah, I was just wondering, Dave, where are we on the One Kent initiative?
Yeah, well, we're still waiting for council to give me any names of suggestions for sort of people to help us begin to pull a core group together. That was the first kind of next step that we need to do. What we did, Harrison and I had a conference call last week with the people that sort of help us, that are going to be our mentors. There is actually, there's an Ohio-based coach now that is all excited to come to Kent and be a part of a Kent project. So they gave us some advice. They said getting it started is always the hardest part, so don't stress out. And there's some talk. We sort of have a plan now, and I'll have to get you guys the dates as we work towards this, but the idea is another sort of informational meeting and to invite people that are already probably overburdened, but so we're not asking for them to lead this because it's always the same volunteers over and over. But really what we want to do is get names from them, just like we'd like names from you. If there are certain people that you think just know a lot of people in Kent, it would help us. Because remember, One Kent that process is very much about what they call hidden voices, getting to people who don't typically participate in civic engagement. And so we need to know those folks. So there's a couple of things coming in the next couple of months, 3 or 4 months. I'm looking at Harrison, trying to remember exactly, but so stay tuned. We are working towards that.
Good. Further, Mr. Turner?
No.
Well, oh, Heidi.
Yeah, I'm concerned about what the young man had to say about the brine issue, and I just did a little research where it is Ohio House Bill 393, which it would be part of the Senate bill that he was referring to, but the Senate bill is mostly just about everything having to do with gas and oil drilling. The concern that I would have is not that necessarily that our city would do such a thing, but that if this bill passes, that it is very possible that then the state would do it and be directed to do spraying of brine that comes from as a waste product of fracking operations. They would be directed to do it because of the very, very low price. So what I'd like, I'd like to put it in the form of a motion, because what I'd like to do is explore writing a letter to the state, stating our concerns, or requesting sustainability council action on this, or just go ahead right now and just say, let's draft a letter opposing this issue. So we could put it into committee. I'm a little concerned that the vote might be coming up soon.
Depending on when the vote is coming up, the council can pass a resolution that we can send down to the State House.
I would like to make a motion to pass a resolution of concern.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tracy. Further discussion? Heidi?
Not right now.
Tracy, discussion?
Well, I agree. I think it's a matter of concern if they're putting radium on our roads. I mean, that's a very big concern for kids and animals and things like that. And I want to make sure that we're not doing it either in our practices. So I agree. Let's make a resolution.
Any other discussion? Mr. Kuhar?
Well, I'm pretty sure we're not, we're making our own, but I would like to have the information about the bill before I make any decisions either way, and I haven't, this is the first I've heard about it, I haven't had a chance to read it, review it. They'd be more apt to put it in the committee and, have that information and review. I'm not gonna read it right now.
House Bill 393, Anthony DeVitas and Michael O'Brien.
Point of order.
Yeah, Mr. Kuhar has the floor. Are you done, John?
Yeah.
Is there any more discussion? Mike?
Is this motion to put it into committee, or is it?
I think the motion was, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a form of resolution. Am I right?
Yes, but we will bring that to committee at the
First?
next
All
committee
right.
meeting, yes, and I'll have something drafted for you to look at.
Thank you,
All
more
right.
information.
So that's your understanding, Heidi? Tracy, that's your understanding?
393 is already passed.
All right, any more discussion? Gwen?
I've had residents express concern about it. There's a lot of concern among our residents that this kind of fracking byproduct is being marketed specifically as a money maker for the fracking industry, and that it's an unhealthy, potentially dangerous product, and our residents are concerned. So I'm going to vote for this. I'd like to learn more about it, and I look forward to seeing a resolution.
I understand the concern, but it's my understanding we don't do it in Kent. Am I right?
We make our own brine mix.
Yeah, so your residents are talking, you ought to know we're not doing it in Kent.
But it's still on their minds.
I understand that.
So I think this would be a good opportunity to clarify to our residents and also express council's concern statewide too.
Ferrara.
So for clarification, is to put into council to discuss what is actually happening, or is it to discuss or to agree to a resolution that we don't know the information about?
We took it to mean, if I can jump in, we took it to mean that we will bring additional information to you, overview of the bill. Based on Heidi's suggestion, we can also have a draft resolution of concern. You can choose to say no thanks to that, or you can accept it. Does that work?
Yeah, and I'd be in favor of that also.
All right. You have more, Heidi?
Yeah, I just want to say, though, to Gwen's point, you know, we have state roads all around us that we may
Point of
not
order,
be-
it has to be to the motion.
Yeah.
It is. I'm saying that it's a threat even if Kent doesn't do it directly. It's a threat on our roads and our roadway systems.
My statement was reassure because Gwen said residents, and the residents of Kent ought to know that we don't do it in the
Correct.
9.5 square miles of the city of Kent. All right. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Is there further? Mr. Gardner?
Yeah. I'm just kind of curious. I see Mr. Wilkie has been appointed to a variety of the JEDs to be our representative. Is there anything that has come up about the Rootstown JED? Are we still in conversation with them, or is it a?
It's been a couple of months. We were contacted at the timing, you know, the current president of Neomed is stepping down.
Correct.
And there was some discussion of perhaps the next president will want to take it back up because they're the largest employer affected by the JED. And obviously, it's not just up to them. There's the whole township, and that there was a group of opposition, local opposition, that sort of stepped up the last time it came about. So there's differing opinions among the township trustees about whether that would succeed or not. And of course, we had the school district mixed in there too, and now they're staying for sure. So that kind of, so all those factors, we've heard rumblings that there may be renewed interest, but we've had nothing official.
Okay, very good. Second thing is, I'm just kind of curious. Bridget, have we had any people coming forward under our chicken ordinance and is beginning to have chickens housed in the city of Kent that you're aware of?
Not into the community development department, but I know there was an informational meeting that both Heidi and Gwen attended. I was actually at the planning commission meeting, but it was well attended, and I think it was more about procedural versus items, but we haven't had anybody contact us about the ordinance itself.
I've had people call me wondering where we were on the chickens, and I said, I have not seen a wholesale, movement towards that. So maybe this summertime.
There were about 60 people at that meeting at the library.
All right, let's move on. Anybody else? Gwen?
Are we on to comments yet or no?
Well, you know, somehow you guys just blend all this
Yeah, we do.
together.
We
I
both
just
do.
can't sort it out. I'm not that smart.
It's on purpose.
What would you like?
Yeah, it's a comment.
I have a comment. If we're
All right, we're on
final
comments now.
Okay. I just want to, on a more somber tone, I just want to point out that it's been a year since the Parkland shootings, and that we are still waiting to see a consensus and some legislation from our state and federal legislators regarding gun violence, which is terribly disappointing, but I'm very proud of this city and our memorandum of understanding with Kent City Schools that we are still participating in, that our first responders, our police department, our fire department, and our school district is working together, and I think that shows a commitment on the part of our city to do what we can and work together to provide for the safety of our students and the people that live and work here.
Well said.
Well said. Any more comments? Is there anything else under these three items you guys would like? All right. I have no mayor's comments tonight. I probably said too much the way it is. We do have an executive session, so I need a motion, Mr.
Yes, we need to have an executive session in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, paragraph 121.22, section G, item 1, to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual, unless the public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual requests a public hearing.
Excuse me. I apologize. That's not the reason that we need the executive session. Would you like to withdraw that?
Yes, I will withdraw that, and we will have, I think, Jerry, I wonder why my hand, okay, anyway, we need an executive session in accordance to Ohio Revised Code 121.22, Section G, Item 3, conferences with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending or imminent court action.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kuhar. Roll call.
Mr. Amrhein.
Yes.
Mr. DeLeone.
Yes.
Mr. Ferrara.
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar.
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg.
Yes.
Ms. Shaffer.
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti.
Yes.
Mr. Turner.
Yes.
Ms. Wallach.
Yes.
It'll take 5 minutes for you to exit the room, and we'll go back into public session after the...
Jim and Melanie, I need to talk to you for a minute.
Okay. Get your bullhorn out.
No, that's the only one I got.
Yeah.